Hello, welcome to Vega Achiever Educational Limited, presenting with your tutor, trusted for being friendly and iPad learning. Today, we continue from where we stopped from our previous class, which we talked about diffusion and osmosis. As for today, still on transport in cells, we'll be discussing about active transport. What is active transport? Active transport is the movement of substance against concentration gradient. This means from a lower to higher concentration using energy from respiration in form of what? ATP. And the full meaning of ATP is simply means adenosine triphosphate. I have talked about the definition, so now let's talk about some key points about active transport. One thing you need to know that it requires energy. 2 is the movement of substance from a lower to a higher concentration. 3, it uses carrier protein. And 4, happens in plant and animal cells, just like the way diffusion and also happen in water in animal cells and also in plant cells. Okay, but note one thing about active transport is that it always requires energy in form of ATP, and this energy is gotten from where? The mitochondria majorly. And plant and animal cell both have mitochondria, and the mitochondria of a cell is also regarded as the powerhouse because it provides energy. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about the energy source. Now, like I said, energy from active transport comes from respiration in mitochondria, and this energy is used to change the shape of the carrier proteins. Yes, the energy is used to change the shape of the world's carrier proteins so that our substance can be able to pass through it and also can be able to transport substances from lower to higher concentration. I haven't talked about that. Cooperation. Let's compare active transports to osmosis, diffusion. Now you can see diffusion has no energy from higher concentration towards lower concentration. Osmosis have no energy, majorly involve the movement of water molecules. That is osmosis. You can see osmosis and diffusion requires no energy, because diffusion deals with substances from higher to lower concentration. Note that osmosis also deals with substances from higher to lower concentration, while active transport requires energy and also substance move from lower to higher concentration. I haven't talked about that. Let's discuss briefly on carrier proteins. Carrier proteins in cells membrane binds to molecules and move them across using energy from ATP. Meaning without energy, this process will not be fulfilled. This process cannot be accomplished. That's one thing you need to know about carrier proteins. What does carrier proteins do? They bind to molecules and move them across using energy from ATP. Now, how does this work? Let's talk about it. The molecules bind to carrier protein. Energy from ATP change the protein shape. After this occurs, the molecule moves across the membrane of the cell, and then the proteins return to its original shape. So simple. Briefly, I haven't talked about that. Examples in plant cells. Let's talk about active transport in plant cells. Now, the root hair cells absorb minerals, ions like nutrients from soils, even when concentration is lower in the soil. That's it. So the movement of mineral ions from the soil to the root of a plant is by what process? By active transport, which you'll be seeing in this structure. You can see that within the cell, there's a lot of permit me to use the word high concentration of mineral ions in within the cell, and outside the cell you can see that there are low concentration of mineral ions. So you can see the purple arrows shows that low concentration of mineral ions are present outside the root hair cells, and high concentration of mineral ions are present in the root hair cells. Now, the process in which low concentration of mineral ions enters into the root hair cells is by what process? Active transport. Yes, is by what? Active transport, and this process requires energy. Now let's talk about active transport in animals. Active transport in animals occurs in the small intestine when glucose and amino acid are absorbed into the blood, even when their concentration is lower. Yes, it's like that, meaning from a lower concentration to a higher concentration. So you should know that the process in the small intestine, glucose and amino acid are absorbed into the blood, even when the concentration is lower. That's it. So why is it important? Number one, it supplies essential nutrients. That's it. It prevents nutrient loss. It supports plant growth, and it maintains healthy body function. These are the importance of active transport Take note of this. Supplies essential nutrients, prevent nutrient loss, support plant growth, and maintain healthy body function. Now, I will talk about the importance of active transport. Now, let's attempt some GCSE questions. The first one on my list is active transport. Question 1. Filling the gap. Active transport is the movement of substance from an area of what? Lower concentration to an area of what? Higher concentration. PSAT. That's a very simple question. As it requires what? Energy. It is referred to as what? Active transport or active process. That's it. It requires what? Energy, and it is referred to as what? An active what? Process. You can see this is a very easy question, and this was explained in the what? In our course of study where we're doing active transport, what it requires, and all that. Now, I haven't talked about this particular aspect of questions. Now, let's go to the next. The next question on our list is, why do cell membrane need a carrier protein, given they already partially permeable? Because they need a carrier protein to be able to bind to the molecules. Yes, that's it, to be able to bind to the molecules. And in this process of binding to the molecules, they require energy from mitochondria, which helps them to change their shape so that these molecules that they are bound to can be easily transported into the cell. That is why they majorly need what? A carrier protein. Now, the next question, which is number 3, says what? Why might plants grow faster in soils with a high concentration of mineral ions compared to a soil with lower concentration of, even if both have enough minerals? That is a very good question. A very, very good question. Now, the reason is very simple. Now, imagine both sides have high amount of mineral ions. This improves the uptake of mineral ions in the plant cell, and the process of taking these mineral ions is also helped in improving metabolism of the plant cell. So hence, it's of a great benefits to plants that they are living in the soil, whereby they have high amounts or high concentration of what? Mineral ions, because it increases the rate at which they take up these mineral ions, yes, by active transport. And this process in which, since they are taking up this nutrient in excess, what happens is also increase their metabolic rates and enable them go what? Enable them go faster and all that. So I haven't talked about that. Let's for the next questions. In the course of our study, I would like you to also attempt some few questions here. You can see question number 4, I will leave it for you to answer. And I will go straight to question number 5. Now, in question number 4, answer it and send it on our chat or contact us at Gsce Education Limited to see how brilliant, how smart you are after using this slide to learn. Okay, now let's go to question 5. What could be the long-term health impacts for someone with very few mitochondria in their intestinal cells, rather, in their intestinal cells? This is very, very good question. Now, what happens? Not too much mitochondria. What happens? Meaning the intake of active transport will be what, or rather the process of active transport will be very, very slow. Very, very slow. And this may likely not enable the person or the patient, in quotes, to be able to absorb more nutrients into the blood. And remember, when the blood lacks nutrients or when the body lacks nutrients, what happens? The person becomes weak and the growth becomes very slow. So that's an easy. Going to question number 6. Question number 6, which is the last question. I will leave this for you also to answer. Thank you very much for joining us at Gsce Educational Limited. Trusted for being friendly and high impact learning, and you are always welcome. So contact us when you need any help, and if there be anything you don't understand clearly, you can also do as well to contact us at Gsce. Thank you very much, and God bless you.